In this video, we're going to look to simplify some algebraic fractions using factorising. Now, I am going to have to do factorising before I simplify. I will not simplify if I haven't factorised. Now, this first expression here has a numerator that looks like I'm going to need to factorise it, but the denominator is already factorised. It's already been put into brackets. So let's look at the top. So there isn't a common factor for the numerator. It isn't a difference of two squares. So I'm going to use the grid to factorise it. So I'm going to put my x squared term here and my constant here. I am now looking for two numbers that times to get 5, but add to get -6. So those two numbers are -1 and -5. So put them in with x's. So we're going to have -1x and -5x. Now I find the highest common factor of each row and column. So row, we're going to have x and -1, columns x and -5. So the numerator becomes x minus 1, x minus 5. Now the denominator, I didn't need to factorise, this is already in brackets. Now I can look to simplify. Well, on the top I have an x minus 1, and on the bottom I have x minus 1 times x minus 1. So I can get rid of an x minus 1 on the top and one of the x minus 1s on the bottom. So if I just move that up, that leaves me with x minus 5 over x minus 1. Now let's go on to the next one. X squared minus 1 over 3x plus 3. There is nothing in brackets, so it looks like I'm going to have to simplify both factorise both top and bottom first. So the top, the numerator, first I check if it has a common factor. No, it doesn't, but it is a difference of two squares. So I get my two brackets and put a plus and a minus. At the front of each bracket is the first term square rooted. So x squared square rooted is just x. And at the back of each bracket is the second term square rooted. So 1 square rooted is 1. Now, the denominator, 3x plus 3. Well, first I check for a common factor. Well, 3 is the common factor, so I can take that out. That leaves me x plus 1. Now I've factorised, I can look to simplify. There's an x plus 1 bracket on the top, an x plus 1 bracket on the bottom, so they can go. So that leaves me with x minus 1 over 3. Now, last one here. Now, the numerator here looks like it's a difference of two squares, so that should be relatively straightforward. But the top, I am going to have to use my grid again. So I put my x squared term here and my constant here. I'm looking for two numbers that times to get +8, but add to get -6. And those two numbers are -2 and -4. So I put those in my grid with x's, so -2x and -4x. And then I find the highest common factor of each row and column. So x and -2, x and -4. So taking all this information, let's put that into our updated fraction. So we've got x minus 2 and x minus 4. Now, as you said, the denominator is a difference of two squares, so I have two brackets, 1 plus, 1 minus. The first term in each bracket is the first term square rooted, so x. And the second term is the second term square rooted, so 2. So there you are. I've done some factorising, so I can now do some simplifying. Well, there's an x minus 2 on the top and an x minus 2 on the bottom, so they cancel. So I'm just left with x minus 4 over x plus 2. And that is